Hello everyone and welcome back to the World Rapid Championship. It's a beautiful game from round 3. Alireza Firouzja currently playing for the FIDE flag, whatever that means. Like we mentioned in the video we've covered where he faced Carlsen in the Banter Blitz session, he faces Anton Korobov. If you've been if you've been following the channel for the past few days, you know that Anton Korobov just won the Sunway Sieges tournament without a single loss. Really, he just went into beast mode and obliterated everyone. And even though Korobov may not not yet be considered a top elite player when it comes to classical chess, in rapid chess he's actually almost 2800, 2790 something. So definitely a strong opponent for young Alireza. So let's see what happens over the board. Alireza opens with e4. We have c5. Korobov will go for his Najdorf, as we've seen during the coverage of the Sunway Sieges tournament. Knight f3, d6. We have d4. C captures, knight f6, knight to c3, and of course a6. Korobov goes for the Najdorf variation. And as you can see, Anton Korobov there with his fancy profile photo by Leonard Otis. We have bishop to g5, just developing, continuing development. Knight bd7. We have bishop to c4 and queen to a5 now, putting pressure on the bishop here. Alireza defends it, queen to d2, and now h6, pushing the bishop back. Here, Alireza trades, decides to give up the bishop pair. We have bishop captures, knight captures, and a queenside castle. So white pretty much finished the development. He wants to play king to b1, get the rook into the game, and all the pieces are perfectly placed. Bishop to b3 will also be a nice touch. So e6 by black and bishop to b3 now. The bishop is just much safer there, as well you're expecting this rook to come to c8, and just the a2 and c2 pawn are defended. It's just a much better square for the bishop. Bishop to e7 and now king to b1. Always a useful square, and it also prevents castling immediately because of this knight to d5 trick. You're attacking the bishop. You have to bring the queen back, and then white is just able to eliminate black's bishop pair as well, leaving him with a much better position, because if you trade queens here, then you get knight captures on e7 check, grabbing a piece, and after the king moves, just rook captures on d2. That being the trick. So bishop to d7, he's going to have to wait with castling a bit. We have f4 by Alireza, and now rook to c8. We have rook h to e1 and rook to c5. So this position has been reached before, but the move Alireza plays, queen to e2, is a new move, and it is already as a move 15 that we have a completely new game. So there is nothing better than surprising Anton Korobov when he goes for his Najdorf with a move that maybe he saw it before, but I don't think so, because he didn't reply with the best reply. Here, Korobov castles, and you should really go queen to c7 because of the variation that follows. Korobov castled, and we have e5 here, and Korobov is not afraid of e5, but d captures on e5, f captures on e5. The pawn is protected twice, and knight back to h7, but now knight to f5, and this is the point. Now you open up a discovery towards the bishop on d7. That's why queen to c7 before castling was perhaps somewhat better. So here, if you capture and allow rook captures, it's just terrible. The bishop hangs, the b7 pawn hangs, e6 is coming. It's just a terrible position for black. So here, after knight f5, Korobov decides to go back, queen to d8 now, or maybe he knows the line and he just decided that it's also possible to play it like this. Or although it looks very not really pleasant. The bishop is now pinned. You cannot move it. The queen is stuck guarding both the bishops now, and we have queen to d3. Alireza just brings another attacker to the bishop. We have rook to c7. Korobov defends, although it's not really an impressive square for the rook. It's a very passive square. And rook to e4, preparing to get yet another attacker to the party. We have bishop to c5, not allowing rook d4. And now Alireza goes back, knight to g3, with ideas of rook to g4, knight h5, and going after Korobov's king. We have queen g5, not allowing it, but h4. Alireza just pushes the queen back, and now queen to g6 is the move to play. It still keeps, it's a great square for the queen. You keep attacking the knight. If you move the rook, you can trade queens. You prevent rook g4, you prevent knight h5. So the queen g6 really does the job nicely. But Korobov goes back, knight to e7, and this allows Firouzja to really activate his pieces. We have rook to g4, king to h8, making room for rook to g8, and now knight to h5. We have g6, and now knight to f4, already having the threat of rook captures on g6, because if pawn recaptures, then knight captures comes with check, and you pick up the queen. So rook g8, adding another defender here, and now knight to e4, now adding another attacker in the attack. Knight to f6 is coming. So with h5 attacking the rook, but now Alireza just goes for it. He plays knight captures on h5. So a piece sacrifice with g captures on h5 and rook captures on g8. We have king captures on g8 and queen to g3 with check. King to h8, and now to finish off the sacrifice, knight f6. And it's just beautiful. First you might think, what's the point? The point is because, well, obviously you're threatening mate. But the point is, after knight captures and pawn captures, the queen is under attack, but also you're threatening mate, and also you're threatening to win the rook. So there's really no good move here. After queen captures, you just pick up the rook. You rob the exchange, of course, in a completely winning position. So here, after knight to f6, Korobov played queen back to f8. He left the defense of the bishop on d8, even though it's possible to defend it with queen to d8, but it just looks so ugly because, well, the bishop cannot move, and you will not be able to really move. If the queen ever moves, you can still deliver mate. But point is, after queen to d8, you go queen to f3. The idea is queen h5 followed by queen to h7 mate. So knight captures, pawn captures, and now queen, of course the threat is just queen captures on h5, there is no stopping that. However, after queen to g8, now you can move, and after queen captures on h5, queen to h7, and now after queen back to e5, you're threatening to win back material, you're attacking the rook. If the rook moves, you're winning back your piece. So bishop to b6, and now queen to d6, further attacking the bishop, bishop to a5, and here we reach this very exciting position where Korobov would keep his extra piece, but he's basically without a move. So you can't really do anything. You can't move the rook because the bishop falls. You can't move this bishop anywhere useful, and it's pretty much stuck guarding this rook. You cannot move the bishop because you allow check after the queen blocks. You deliver check here, and then a rook to d8 finishes the job. So here black wouldn't really have any moves. But it's a really difficult position, even to play it. It's a disgusting position. Especially for a rapid game. So Korobov goes queen to f8, and now Alireza just wins back the piece. Knight captures on d7. We have queen to g7 offering a queen trade, but now queen f3, not allowing the trade. Also, you want to pick off the h5 pawn. So queen to g4 defending, and also if you put the queen to a weird square, you might also just get checkmated. So queen f1, and now bishop to f2. Kind of locking the queen out of the game, because if captures, then again you get mated, but just c3. Now the bishop defends the rook, and also the bishop will now again be a part of this game when it comes to c2 and starts attacking the king side. Queen captures on h4, but now bishop to c2 by Alireza. We have knight to g5, getting the knight in the game, but now knight to f6. So what's the idea? Well, you want to get the queen into the game and pick off the h5 pawn, so you can create some threats using the rook along the h file. It's easier said than done, but Alireza goes about it properly. Also, you do have some threats along the back rank. So first rook to c8, and now queen e2. You are now gonna grab the h5 pawn. Bishop back to c5. You don't want it to be a target here, as you do want to activate your queen. Knight captures on h5. We have bishop back to e7, taking care of the f6 square, but now g3 pushes the queen further back. Queen h3, and now knight to f4. So really making every move count. You want to get the queen away from there. You want to play queen g2, and you want to get rook to h1 in. So queen to h6, and now queen to g2. And here Korobov, of course, you don't want to lose your queen after rook to h1. Korobov played queen to g7, and now I would ask you to pause the video, but I know all of you know what's going to be played. So here, if you found rook to h1, congratulations, it is enough to win the game. But Alireza just played queen captures on b7, and it was in this position on move 42 that Anton Korobov resigned the game. Really impressive stuff by young Alireza, taking down, well, basically a 2800 player. Korobov is, I think he's 5th or 6th, you know, regarding ranking in rapid chess in the world. So it's just amazing stuff. Here, you resign because, well, the rook is threatened, the bishop is threatened, a rook to h1 is coming, and there's just not much you can do here. You can block with the queen f8, but then rook to h1 check comes, and after you block, or you move the king, let's say king g8, now queen captures on a6, or just, you know, yeah, you can continue playing this game, but there's not all that much that can be done. So, not only that, you are up 2 pawns, and well, it's just a completely winning position for white, and of course Korobov knows this. They were both fairly low on time, but for Alireza being low on time, that's not really, you know, something special, because he probably plays bullet games in between the, you know, World Rapid Championship games. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. You know, I would like to thank Doug McNabb, Edward Baker, Maxim Pisaneshchi, 1998, and Torrance Fike for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing with the coverage of the World Rapid Championship, we still have to check up on some of the games from round 5, and then I'm going to go through all of your suggestions, hashtag suggestions, of course, and check what other games we've missed, as there are too many of them to be shown either today or maybe tomorrow morning before round 2 starts. So yeah, once again, thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.